Good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing? Our next speaker has written a book. It's a book that I'm personally am very interested in. The name of the book is called What Part of Menopause Don't You Understand? The Ultimate Hormone Toolkit. Please help me welcome to talk today about hormones, myths, and secrets, Pat O'Connell, the author of the book.
Hi, this is my book, by the way, for you guys. And I don't know if you've been to any of these other sessions, but 30 minutes goes by really fast. So I'm going to kind of give you a brief overview and then open it up for questions, because typically the questions one person will ask answers questions for other people in the room. In terms of the hormone myths and secrets, the myths, the most prevalent myths start with the one that says hormones are bad for you. And it typically comes out of there was a study that came out in 2002 that said that hormone replacement therapy, the risks outweighed the benefits. Well, the first thing is that the hormones that were studied were horse hormones. They were not human hormones that were studied. And the second thing that you need to know about that study is that when they said that the risks outweighed the benefits, they exaggerated the increase in risks. So, for example, when they said that the worst of the increased risks was for blood clots, that risk increased by 100%. It doubled. It went from 1/4% risk to 1/2% risk. So it doubled. Yes, that sounds scary. It makes you think 1 in 2 people are going to have a blood clot if they take these hormones. Not the case. It's 1 in 300 or 1 in 200 or whatever. So that's the first myth. And if you think about it, when they say that hormones are bad for you, if that truly were the case, every child who goes through puberty should just fall over dead, because they are just loaded. We are all, when we go through puberty, we are loaded with hormones. We are, with the exception of pregnancy, we never are flooded with as many hormones as we are during the puberty period. So that's really the first one. The second myth that I really want to impress on everyone here, and if it doesn't apply to you, I guarantee you there's somebody in your life that you know that it does apply to. I hear this all the time. Women will say, oh, I got the hot flashes and they quit, so I don't need to think about this anymore. Or, oh, it was never a problem for me. I never had hot flashes, or they were never bad, so I don't need to worry about hormones and what's going on in my body. That is so not true. The hot flashes, not everybody gets them, first of all. I didn't. Second of all, they're just the tip of the iceberg. When you can have no symptoms, but your body goes through a change in your hormones, and it actually starts about 10 years before you start getting any symptoms, if in fact you do get symptoms. So when you're in your, say, 40s, if you're destined to go through menopause at 50, about in your 40s, you're going to start not ovulating every month. When you don't ovulate, your body doesn't produce progesterone. And your body needs an even balance of progesterone and estrogen. Estrogen is, again, not bad for you, but when it's out of balance with the progesterone kind of puts the brakes on estrogen. If estrogen is not balanced by progesterone, estrogen's job is to build tissue, to cause cells to grow. Well, what is cancer? It's just runaway cell growth. So if estrogen is allowed to just go wild and it's not tamed by something else, being the progesterone, you're more likely to be getting cancers. The other thing is that you need to understand that this imbalance can happen in the absence of any obvious symptoms. So when you start feeling like, for example, if you're in your 40s, 30s, it can start very young in some women. When you start having irregular cycles, when you start noticing that you have PMS more 1 month and then nothing for 2 months, or you might have very light periods for two months or 3 months, and then you have a very heavy period, those represent months when you're not ovulating. Anytime you don't ovulate, and this happens long before menopause, but every time you don't ovulate, your body doesn't make progesterone that month, and you don't have progesterone to balance the estrogen. As you get closer to menopause, you have more and more of those cycles when you don't ovulate, you don't make progesterone, you don't balance your estrogen. And there is a theory, it's called the estrogen window hypothesis, that says that it's during this time that disease processes begin. For example, heart disease, cancers, which brings me to another of the myths, which says that the big study that was canceled in 2002 because hormones are bad for you. A lot of people believe that study proved that hormones cause breast cancer. That study absolutely did not prove that hormones cause breast cancer. Breast cancer takes 7 to 10 years to form from the first mutated cell until it becomes a detectable tumor. It takes 7 to 10 years. The study ran 5.2 years before it was canceled. So any cancers that were diagnosed during that 5.2 year study already had started. So the only thing that study can prove is that taking this Prempro, which is not bioidentical, and I'll talk about bioidentical, by taking Prempro, you may accelerate the growth of an existing tumor. So that's another one of the myths. And I think I talked about the breast cancer. Another myth is that breast cancer is, for women, our greatest health risk in terms of diseases that happen kind of after menopause. Not true. And this group out here seems to be very enlightened, so you guys probably already know this, but heart disease is the #1 killer of women. And not only that, but we're 9 times more likely to die of heart disease than we are of breast cancer. So it's not just a little bit more important than that. We're not a little bit more at risk of heart disease. It's this big hammer out there waiting to hit us if we're not aware. So we have to kind of change our way of thinking, because women, we tend to think more in terms of, breast cancer, 1 in so many women are going to get breast cancer, and this is the big thing we're worried about. Yeah, that's okay, worry about that, but you need to worry about heart disease. In terms of the secrets, I kind of touched on this a minute ago. Everybody thinks it's estrogen. Estrogen, okay, I've got hot flashes, I've got to take estrogen. For years and years and years, that's what doctors gave women. They gave women Premarin, which is made from horse urine. And you guys, again, all being enlightened, probably know this. It just so happens that pregnant mares urinate estrogens. And so the drug company 50, 60 years ago now, it was in the 40s, they started collecting this stuff, they condensed it down, they gave it, they took these estrogens that are eliminated from horses' bodies and they put it in human women's bodies. Well, yes, they work. If you're having hot flashes, if you're feeling dry, your tissues get dried up, when one of the functions of estrogen is to kind of fluff up and round us out and actually put weight on us. So, taking estrogen is kind of a double-edged sword. But yes, the horse hormones, they provided all of these things. They could stop the hot flashes. They could provide the moisture back into our skin, make our tissues, our skin feel more supple and all that kind of stuff. But what they didn't realize is that these horse hormones are so much stronger than human hormones. And of course, women and doctors thought that was okay, and they started out with a much higher dosage in those days, and they have over the years brought it back down to a smaller amount. But the horse hormones stay in your system longer, and what happens is, if you think of the cells in your body, they're like a lock and a key. So the cell is like the lock, and there's a keyhole in that cell that fits a hormone. But if you think of the hormone, it's like a key with two ends on it. So there's a key sticking out here and a key sticking out here. On one end, the key goes into the cell, and it's got to fit into that cell and turn on whatever job that cell is going to do. So if it's estrogen, it's going to turn on, it's going to reduce hot flashes, it's going to provide the moisture for your tissues and all the other things that it does throughout your body. It's going to build mammary glands and all these secondary female characteristics. So the horse estrogen fits into the cell on this end, but now there's another key on another key end on the other side of your key, and it's got to fit into an enzyme that floats around your body. That enzyme basically breaks down that hormone molecule so that it can get out of the cell and be processed out of your body, flushed out of your body. Well, in the case of the horse hormones, it fits in here, but it's like a rusty lock and key, so it sticks. And it stays there, so it continues to provoke the estrogen response, if it's estrogen or progesterone or testosterone or whatever it is doing to the cell. So the cell keeps producing that effect over and over again. Not a natural way for your body to behave. And it takes a long time for these enzymes that are alien, the human enzymes are alien to this horse estrogen, so the human enzymes are pounding away at that horse molecule, trying to get it out of that cell so fresh molecules can come in here. So these alien hormones have side effects just because they overstimulate our tissues, and they cannot break down normally and be flushed out of our bodies. Our normal human hormones, that what are called endogenous, they're made in our bodies. They go in, and within about 8 to 12 hours, they are broken down, they're out of the cell, new ones come in. So within about 8 to 12 hours, we're flushing out the hormones, the natural hormones that were in there. Today, there are what are called bioidentical hormones on the market that you can take instead of these horse hormones that were available, and doctors are most familiar with those since 1940s. The bioidenticals are they're made in a lab, but they are chemically identical to the chemicals that nature made in our bodies. So when they go in, when they dock with our cells, they are going to be processed, they're going to fit exactly with our enzymes. The enzymes are going to break them down in 8 to 12 hours. They're going to be flushed out of our body. So this is an important thing you need to know. There's another important thing, and I'm just kind of touching very briefly on some really important topics. Our bodies make multiple estrogens. There are two basic ways one of the strongest estrogen can break down. In one pathway, it breaks down into a form that's benign, and it, like I said, it just breaks down, it's flushed out of your body, and then new hormones can come in. There's another, if the estrogen breaks down in this other pathway, it goes to an estrogen metabolite that is associated with cancer. Something that is really amazing is that there is a group of vegetables, they're called cruciferous vegetables. It's broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kale, Brussels sprouts, all these, I call them all the stinky vegetables. But basically there are chemicals in these vegetables that when you eat them, they produce enzymes, and depending on which enzymes are in your body or are most plentiful in your body, those are those influence which way your estrogen is going to break down. So if you have more of these enzymes that these cruciferous vegetables put into your body, you're going to influence your estrogen to break down toward the benign side as opposed to the cancer-causing side. And the last thing that I want to kind of mention, again, really just hitting high points, something that people don't typically know, that in terms of osteoporosis, you'll hear this over and over again, that you've got to get the weight-bearing exercises, you've got to take calcium, you've got to, they say you have to drink milk and all this kind of stuff. What you typically never hear is that you have to maintain your body's pH. What happens is you could be taking truckloads of calcium every day, and if you eat a lot of animal protein metabolizes into acid, and your body, when it finds an acid, the body's fluid, the blood, the plasma in our bodies, seeks a neutral level. It wants to be pH neutral. It's very, very close to pH neutral. So if it's too acid, just like if our stomach is too acidic, we take a Tums. What's in Tums? Calcium. So our bodies say, oh, okay, my blood is too acidic. What can I do? Well, it starts looking for calcium. Well, where does it find the calcium? In your bones and your muscles. So if you're eating these animal proteins, if you're eating a lot of animal proteins, for some reason, they metabolize into acids. They dump especially like if you're on an Atkins type high protein diet, you're going to dump all of this acid into your body. Your body's going to start looking for calcium to neutralize that acid. It's going to pull it out of your bones and muscles, and it's going to flush it right out of your system. The calcium that you need for your body is going to flush right out. You also have to get your vitamin D, which you can get from about 10 minutes in the sunlight, as long as some decent part of your skin is exposed without sunblock. But you have to have the raw materials. So you do need calcium, but typically you may not need to take huge amounts. You could take a very small supplement, or just if you eat dairy products, not in terms of loading up on the calcium, but just to get enough calcium. You don't want to eat too much of the dairy because it's animal protein. But it's almost counterintuitive. It's fresh fruits and vegetables that especially the acidic fruits, metabolize into bases. They're more alkaline. So it sounds backwards that you would be eating an acid, but what happens when it changes in your body, it changes into a base which neutralizes acid. So what you want to do is not go with, you obviously have to have the proteins because you need protein for brain building, for muscle building, for all these things, but don't make protein the core of your meal, this huge part of your meal. Make it like a side dish. So you have your protein, and especially if you can do fish, wonderful, because that's going to help your heart disease issue. Fish oil, you want to get your omega-3s, but use your protein as a side dish and have more of the fruits and vegetables. And obviously, if you can do the broccoli and the cauliflower, you can eliminate a lot of cancers. The broccoli, the cruciferous vegetables, have been shown to prevent cancer in a couple of ways. One, it prevents the oxidation that causes substances to make to become carcinogenic. And two, if these chemicals find damaged DNA in your body, it causes those cells to commit suicide. It's called cell apoptosis. I'm done, and if you want to start asking questions, I'm more than happy to go ahead and take them. Sure.
Does it also apply to men on the cruciferous vegetables?
Say again?
Does it also apply to men?
Absolutely. The cruciferous vegetables, they're indole-3 carbinol. It's usually shortened to I3C. That and the sulforaphane, there's sulforaphane, which is the thing that makes the vegetables stinky. And those are the two chemicals that are most the strongest in terms of fighting cancer and preventing. Actually, they prevent heart disease, but they have been associated with fighting all kinds of cancers, stomach cancer and reproductive type cancers. Other questions? Yes?
Are there some kind of tests that a woman can have when she's going into menopause to determine the progesterone?
The question is, are there tests to find out where your hormones are when you're going through menopause? Absolutely. You can go to your doctor, which is the old-fashioned way, and you can still do that, and you can get blood tests, but you want to make sure you ask them to test the free hormones. What happens is that about 95% of all the hormones that are circulating in your body are bound. They're bound by sex hormone binding globulin. Don't ask me why nature gave you 100% of these hormones and then locked up 90% of them. I have no idea what the wisdom was. But you want to have the doctor test directly for the free version, the part that's not bound. The other alternative, and this I have found to be just a godsend, you can get home test kits that they require a little saliva sample. You can order them off the web. Some places, Dr. Kelly Martin, who's speaking tomorrow, has test kits at Cocopelli Spa in Frisco. But you can look up on the internet home test kits or saliva hormone test kits. And there's one that's I can't think of the name of it now, Female Check. It's kind of a basic test. It's about $65, and it'll test estrogen, it'll test the strongest estrogen, estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone. So I recommend everybody get a baseline test before you start. I mean, even if you know, as soon as you can. If you're young, go ahead and get the test now to see what your baseline levels are, because I regret the fact that I didn't have a test done when I was young, when I was fertile, when I was normal, quote unquote, so that I would know what normal is in terms of supplementation. And these tests are wonderful. You can get, I just did a test that also included adrenal function through Cocopelli's and Dr. Kelly Martin, because over so many years of being stressed and, you know, living life on the edge and sleeping too little and eating poorly and all these kinds of things, your adrenal glands get kind of burned out. And they provide the backup supply of these hormones when your ovaries shut down. So if you've burned out your adrenal glands, you're really going to suffer menopause symptoms. So I think it's a really good idea, and that test was $155, and again, it uses saliva samples. In that case, it takes 4 saliva samples, because the first morning sample is just for the hormones, and then the other 3 samples were for cortisol to see how your body is responding to stresses during the day. Yes, ma'am?
Every time you want to do one of those checks, it's $65 or $150.
Right. And typically what I do is I'll do a hormone test before. If I'm making a change in my hormone regimen, I'm taking bioidentical hormones, and when I make any change to my regimen, whether it's going up or down in a particular hormone, or if I'm adding or taking something away, I wait for about 6 weeks, a month to 6 weeks, and then I do a hormone test. So you want to get a baseline test, and then if you're going to do any supplementation or do anything to change your diet. For example, if you weren't eating broccoli and you decided to start eating broccoli, there's actually a test to test that ratio of the benign versus the cancerous type of estrogen. It's called the 2:16 ratio. And so you could, for example, if you just decided, okay, I'm going to start eating broccoli 3 times a week, you could start that, do it for about 6 weeks, test yourself first, then start eating it, and then test afterwards and see if it's changed the 2:16 ratio. Yes?
What did you do to help your adrenals?
I have been taking supplemental minerals, herbs, and these are specific formulas to provide support for the adrenal glands. Licorice root, which supports the adrenals and is a dietary aid. Pregnenolone, which is a precursor to progesterone and all of the other hormones, and DHEA, which is a precursor to testosterone. So, and the last thing I want to say, because we're down to like no minutes, is, and I was reminded by this, cholesterol, when people talk about, oh, you've got to lower your cholesterol. Cholesterol is not bad for you. It's only oxidized cholesterol that's bad for you, which is why you want to take your antioxidants, your vitamin E, your vitamin C, and the thing you need to know about cholesterol is all of your hormones are made from it. If you had no cholesterol, you wouldn't be making any hormones.